Hi, hello, and welcome. I'm definitely not Hydrian, and you're watching a little experiment video to see how you guys feel about narration rather than live commentary. This video is significantly shorter than other videos on the channel, but I didn't want to spend a whole day making a video if you guys end up hating it. Before I get into that though, I'm going to take a quick look at the Algarian Stormrider mount you get with the pre-order of the War Within. This thing comes with every single appearance unlocked, so right off the bat you can make it match your character's transmog. The blue matches my shaman perfectly. There's plenty of other options. I personally enjoy the heavily armored look with no headgear and a spiky crown. It reminds me a lot of the Argentavis from Ark, for any of those familiar with the game. I absolutely adore Ark. But the mount is a little more unique. It comes with a change to one of the dragon riding abilities. Whirling Surge is replaced with Lightning Rush. To use Lightning Rush, you have to fly near walls to gain stacks of static charge. Once you reach 10 stacks, you can use Lightning Rush. It's very fast and lasts quite a while, but the downside is that you can't turn properly while it's happening. So you have to weigh whether or not it's worth using. The special dragon riding races do a great job of showing you how to best make use of it by putting the gold rings near walls to build up your static charge, and then letting you figure out when the best time is to use Lightning Rush. I don't know about you guys, but I found this incredibly exciting. Not because of the ability itself, which is pretty cool but largely useless for long distance travel, since you'll usually just go high up in the air and then just glide towards whatever you want to go to, like with the other dragon riding mounts. The reason I find it exciting is because this could be a proof of concept for Blizzard to try out more mount abilities. While this is the first dynamic flying mount with an ability change so far, who's to say we won't get more mounts with similar unique mechanics, like a mount where you can only gain the ability to use a Whirling Surge equivalent if you dive bomb for long enough, or one that makes you turn very quickly and easily while you have it active, allowing better maneuvering in tight corridors. This can be really fun, and I hope Blizzard keeps playing with that. Imagine you just set all these different mounts with different abilities to your favorites, and every time you mount up, you travel in a different way. That could add some nice variety to how you get around the map. It could also be really annoying, of course, when you get the one mount that you really don't like, but hey, we'll see. We'll see if they even add it, I should say. I know I'd love for them to give it a shot, but let me know what you think. Hi! Starting with this video, I'm going to be trying something a little bit different. I'm going to do some narration rather than live commentary because I really want to see how it goes and how you guys like it. One thing that I know for sure is that when I don't commentate live, I perform a lot better, but you will be the judge of that. Doing narration rather than live commentary will let me explain things a little bit better without actually having to sacrifice too much, because I am going to keep recording my voice even when I'm just doing it without live commentary, because it leads to moments like this. Ah, shit. I have the knockback. I have the wrong freaking talents. I'm going to immediately run out of the dungeon and reset. This feels so stupid. Oh, no, you dumbass. You forgot to change the talents. No, I also have to grab the decurse. Somebody's typing in hero. Oh, no. So yeah, I forgot to actually grab the knock-up talent. The reason I didn't have it was because last week was Sanguine. Luckily, I made it back in time to be of some use to my group by knocking up the fetid maggot when he was doing his little frontal thing. I say little, but that thing will absolutely wipe you out, especially unfortified. Usually the first tick of the frontal will just kill anyone that stands in it, and 2 will take out a tank. In this group, I'm setting the Blood Priest as my focus target. This way I can continue to DPS the priority target while being able to interrupt important spells on the Blood Priest. This is something I'll do in almost every pull where there is a caster, especially if there are multiple, because that way I can instantly interrupt using my focus target interrupt macro. If you look at my bars, you'll see that I have 2 wind shear keybinds. One is for my current target, and the other is for my focus target. In the group that we're fighting right now, we want to funnel our damage into the giant mask, as it does the most damage and is the biggest threat. It casts Harrowing, which is the top priority interrupt in this pull. The Blood Priest casts 2 abilities. One is called Gift of Gahun. This gives a dispellable magic buff to an ally or itself, making them unkillable for a while. You can purge this as a shaman or just kick it. The other one is Dark Reconstitution, which heals an ally or itself to full health. As you can imagine, this is also a high priority interrupt, especially on fortified weeks, because you don't want to have to kill a mob twice, right? We ended up using Bloodlust on the first boss because I wasn't there for the first pull, and that's completely on me. That said, the hunter could have used it, but with one person not there for the Bloodlust, it would have been a bit of a waste. Not really much to say about the first boss really, just kick her and don't stand in the crap. Ideally, you wouldn't kick her when she's targeting the tank, since the tank is dummy thick and won't even feel it, but depending on your UI, it might be annoying to see who it's targeting. Generally, it's almost never a mistake to have your interrupt on cooldown as often as possible. If you're actually managing to interrupt things, obviously. It's kind of pointless to just put it on cooldown when nothing's being kicked. And I can already hear you saying thanks, Captain Obvious. But moving on to the next pulls, the tank was doing a really good job making the pulls large enough to be time efficient while still limiting the number number of extremely dangerous mobs. There were no pulls with more than one Blood Swarmer, and that's really good, especially on Fortified. I made sure I had CC available for the Fetid Maggot's frontal, and the group was really good at preventing it from casting as well, so this went great. I was also keeping an eye out for the Blood Swarmer's cast, as it's a pretty strong AoE that silences, as well as the Lashers who cast a ridiculous 26-second stun disease. Luckily in this group we had a priest and a paladin, meaning we had 2 potential disease dispels, depending on their talents, which reduced the threat from the Lashers, but it's better to kick it than to have to cleanse it, if you can. In groups where you have, for instance, a Druid healer, which can't dispel diseases, and no other group member that can dispel diseases, you really have to prioritize those stuns because they are lethal. Since most pulls will have a slime in the group, and the slimes will target that stunned person with a swirly, and they will die. If not from the immediate impact, then from the damage from them standing in the crap on the ground. We decided to go immediately into the second boss rather than going for the third boss in order to get rid of the sated buff, and it worked out great. The group was very efficient at taking out the maggots on the ground, so no one had to waste too much time doing it, letting everyone DPS quite a bit. At the end, I derped out and kept stomping maggots instead of committing to the boss and finishing it off, but it wasn't an issue because the group was just doing great. The priest in the group was awesome because they were dispelling the shield buff from the skeleton mobs. That shield is significant enough to make dispelling worth it. I was about to start purging them because the DBM lady started saying dispel, but the priest beat me to it. When I see priests actually using the spell magic, I get real happy because it's usually a sign that the player is very experienced. Just in general, they were doing great on the healing and mass dispel front. I felt safe the entire run. On the 2 defilers before the third boss, I made a point of saying I'd kick the curse cast on one of them. This lets the group focus on interrupting other abilities, and on hierarchies, all of the casts are do or die most of the time. The group executed it perfectly with not a single cast going through and nobody getting stunned by the totems either. On the third boss, I decided to pop Bloodlust, as Sated had worn off, and it's probably the most efficient use. You could make an argument that I could have saved it for either the last boss or the last pack of trash before the last boss, seeing as the group was progressing rather quickly, but I felt like this boss was a bit more dangerous, as even with really experienced players, you can end up just with a few shrooms left, and that can wipe you out. Basically, even a small mistake on this boss can be very fatal for the entire group, so I decided to make it a little bit more safe by using Bloodlust. Well, all of those reasons, and also Zug Zug. We did have a few people go down during this boss fight. I think they went low from the unavoidable AoE, and then also got hit by some spores in the bullet hell. Luckily, even if we had chosen to reset here, or we wiped completely, we would have had more than enough time to beat the timer, but we didn't wipe. When people went down, I popped my group heal to keep us all nice and healthy, while the tank worked up holy power to res the healer to take back over once my group heal ended. It slowed us down a little bit to finish the boss off with 1 DPS down, but it didn't affect the timer too much. On the last pull, I wanted to make sure that I killed the worm first, because the tank can't move around for the tornadoes or the tentacles until the worm is dispatched. On very high keys, it's also important to finish off any casters in a group as quickly as possible, because you do have to keep kicking them, because at some point in a fortified key, like at 25 or something, even Void Spit will become lethal. Lucky for me, I don't go into keys that high, but I would trust that people that do those keys also have more interrupts done in the course of a dungeon. I also kept an eye on the party frames to see if anyone got feared, especially the healer, because I talented the Tremor Totem when I do Underrot specifically for these Corruptor enemies. Tremor Totem removes fears when placed, and then again in short intervals. It basically keeps shaking the ground, that's what the tooltip says, making it effectively an AoE fear cleanse for a few seconds. I've had runs where these came in really clutch to save us from a wipe, as well as to stop us from body pulling an extra worm, because there is a worm near the last pull that usually most groups skip, because it's kind of inefficient to kill one worm at a time. In this pull, the healer did go down, probably to one of those sneaky tentacles that like to hide inside of enemy models, so I made sure I stepped further away from the entrance to the last boss room to not get involuntarily sucked into it while I cast my res, which would force the healer to actually run back, wasting a good chunk of our time. I dropped the green marker on top of my head so the tank doesn't have to worry about the other players stacking on top of them instead of where they should be, which is at the edge of the existing poo-poo zones, in order to bait the Wild Expulsion into them. Wild Expulsion targets a random player, including the tank, so it's important to bait it correctly. Some tanks do the point him at the wall strat, some do the strat I'm trying to do, which is a little bit more annoying to execute but removes some of the risk of the wall strat. The wall strat can end up covering the area you're trying to kite into with poo-poo zones, because the Vile Expulsion actually bounces off the walls, but if you bait it into the existing zones, there's next to no chance that the new poo-poo zones go so far behind the boss that it forces you to move for an extended period of time, which is usually where the fatalities start coming in. This group did everything right, so I had no issues of that sort. We got an achievement. For effectively the last dungeon I'm going to run in this character, we got my mind on my money for 25k gold. That does not reflect in my current bank statement. Thank you for the run. The group was pretty good. I really enjoyed this run. Even with the mess up I had at the beginning. Ooh, the Paladin. Okay, 29 of those were Avenger shields. Like, what the heck are those interrupts? It's just a prot paladin, Vlad. It's just a prot paladin. Yeah, the difference between me live commentating and me actually just focusing on the DPS and execution is ridiculous. This is pretty crazy. Lots of high priority interrupts as well. Love to see it. The Dark Echoes, the Sonic Screech, the Decaying Mind, the 26-second disease that stuns you. Of course, we had a paladin and a priest, so the disease wasn't that scary. Very cool. Very fun run. And that does it for our little experiment. Don't worry, I'm going to keep making the 0 to 2800 series. This is just a little filler episode between the Enhancement Shaman series ending and the Mistweaver Monk series starting. If I had enough time to get to 2800 in this season, I would have just started with the Monk, but I took this opportunity to try something different out and see what you guys think. Let me know if you liked it. It feels a little silly to narrate with explanations over Underrot, something everyone who played Season 2 actively has done so many times, but I imagine this kind of narration may become very useful at the start of Season 3, where people might not be as familiar with the dungeons as they are with Season 2 by now after so much time with them. At any rate, let me know what you think. I would appreciate your feedback even more than usual on this video. I did also throw in some thoughts at the beginning about the Algarian Stormrider. Let me know what you think about the whole mount abilities thing. I think it could be pretty cool. But as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the Mistweaver series.